Many great writers have accepted that conflict is the main force that drives a story and manages to keep the attention of the audiences hooked. But conflicts aren't just limited to physical fights and arguments alone. A good show knows how to intellectually challenge the audience while delivering its themes and questions. This is something easy to forget in a medium like anime, where the audience is more focused on the visuals and story rather than its core themes and issues. But one anime that managed to not only give the viewers stunning action scenes, but also question the viewers on what's right and wrong is Fate Zero. Fate Zero is a prequel to the anime and visual novel series Fate Stay Night. The series starts off in the same setting as its prequel, where 7 masters summon 7 servants and fight over the Holy Grail. The first part of the series focuses on introducing us to the characters, their backgrounds, as well as their reasons to get to the Holy Grail. As we get introduced to each character, we see some interesting historical figures as servants. We have King Alexander as Rider, King Arthur as Saber, and Gilgamesh himself as Archer. These 3 are a few of the most powerful kings that existed in history, and seeing all of them in one setting trying to achieve one goal means one thing: there was always going to be a clash in their ideologies. And the setting they're in and the masters they're interacting with also let them argue about their own methods and ideas. Because of this, Fate Zero has 2 main philosophical clashes: the clash between Rider and Saber on what makes a good and wise king, and the clash between Kiritsugu and Saber on honor and chivalry. Moving on to its first conflict now, it's a conflict between 2 kings, both who displayed impeccable skill and boldness in their lives. We all know about the heroic tales of King Alexander, and King Arthur is one of the most influential historical figures in Great Britain. But as the 2 of them sip the wines of Gilgamesh and start a conversation about kingship in the 11th episode of Fate Zero, it evolves into a massive argument about what makes a good king. Saber claims that a good king will be a symbol to his people by being a good leader, while Rider claims that what really matters within a king is his strength. Also note how Gilgamesh never participates in the argument, but just utters a sentence or 2 to ridicule Saber, but we'll get to more on that later. Even though many fans who preferred the action of Fate Zero claim that this episode managed to break the tension built in the previous episodes by having 3 servants sip wine while arguing about kingship, I believe this scene was the most important scene in the first part of the series. These arguments of Rider and Saber helped establish the core themes of the show, kickstart the character arc of Saber, and even ask a question from the audience: what do you look for in a leader? Honesty, chivalry and charisma, or do you acknowledge his strength and his unwavering attitude against any opponent? The episode ends by providing the latter as the solution. Rider releases his noble phantasm against Assassin and not only manages to take him down, but also showcase Rider's own strength in battle, which not only awes both Irisveal and Waver, but also the other 2 former kings themselves. Now let's talk about Gilgamesh, the king of heroes. In Fate Stay Night, Gilgamesh was represented as the antagonist of the series, a king mad with his pride and someone who fell in love with Saber. But the author of Fate Zero, Gen Urobuchi, fleshed out his character more and represented him as an egotistical and nihilistic king corrupted by his own nurture. Gilgamesh cares only about himself, and although he ridicules Saber about his ideals more than he does Rider, in the 23rd episode he mentions how both Rider and Saber are foolish to sacrifice their lives for a dream. Gilgamesh cares only about his survival, and he only breaks down at the defeat of him in the hands of Emiya in Unlimited Blade Works. But Gilgamesh also appreciates strength within a person. After the death of Rider, Waver was somehow able to stand up against the King of Heroes, which is why he didn't kill him. Gilgamesh appreciates strength, but using sacrificing strength for your army, that's something he doesn't like to accept.
あの人の進化だ。そうか。中道大義である。夢、そのあり方を損なうな。
So 3 kings, 3 philosophies, that's what we have here. With the main conflict of the story being the Grail War, this conflict also runs underneath the story through the words and the thoughts of characters and gives us something to question, but this isn't all what Fate Zero is about. In the 16th episode of Fate Zero, Kiritsugu forces Keinet to activate his final command seal and let Lancer kill himself in exchange for allowing him to live. But as soon as Lancer dies, Maya snipes and kills both Keinet and his fiancée under the orders of Kiritsugu. Now, even though what Kiritsugu did was dishonest, there are reasons why we can argue the case for his Machiavellian plan. He already knows the rules of the game and realizes that playing fair is the easiest way to die, so he always stays one step ahead of his opponents, and to stay one step ahead, he has to do whatever is necessary. Under the eyes of Saber, who's a person that honors chivalry and honesty, this feels like an attack in both her ideals and personality. In each of her battles with Lancer, another servant who honored Saber's chivalric codes, Saber always played the game fair, hoping she would win the battle by fair means. She cares about victory and chivalry, but for Kiritsugu what matters is only victory. This creates a clash of philosophies between both Saber and Kiritsugu. Kiritsugu claims that all war is hell and chivalry means nothing in it, and Saber argues that if we do find an ideal system of rules and ethics, we can establish justice for everyone. An episode later, we're given a look at Kiritsugu's past and what gave him the personality he has now. Back in the village, he had a chance to kill Shirley, the first girl who got infected by the virus, but he couldn't do it because of his emotions. This is what resulted in the loss of an entire village and even the death of Kiritsugu's father. The same happened when he was forced to shoot the plane Natalia was in due to the risk of infecting the virus on an entire city. Kiritsugu's past has forced him to embrace the philosophy of utilitarianism, which states that the ends justify the means as long as the end goal is something worthy. But Saber was a knight who grew amongst other knights and honored value, chivalry, and ethics. She is a deontologist, a person who believes good and bad is based on a clear set of moral rules. She judges anyone's actions based on these rules, not by the consequence. So killing another master by unethical means just to eradicate another obstacle from the war is morally bad in her rulebook. What resulted in Kiritsugu and Saber having these ideologies is in the way that they grew up. Growing up in a royal family amongst the knights made Saber embrace concepts like chivalry, while growing in a past which was corrupted due to his own mistakes made Kiritsugu believe in utilitarianism. Saber even acknowledges this as she claims Kiritsugu was someone meant to be a hero, but failed later on. The anime even emphasizes how much Kiritsugu is devoted to his philosophy in the 24th episode. To obtain greater peace, he's even willing to kill the Grail manifestation of Ilya and Irisveal, but later on he realizes the faults of his own ideals and how the Grail was corrupt, which changes his plans and instead asks Saber to destroy the Holy Grail. Conflicts aren't the only thing that these different character ideologies give birth to, but it also creates friendships amongst people with the same ideals. Saber and Lancer are servants who both acknowledge chivalry. When they start their first battle, both of them want to attain victory, but they both want to achieve it by equal means. None of the two try to use any tricks against their opponents, and they only use their skill and their wit. They even complement each other in their battle skills, acknowledging each other's strength, giving us a true battle between knights. This is because both Saber and Lancer have the same ideologies because of their past. Their moral codes and codes of chivalry lead them to believe that the people in the contemporary era possess the same. But the same can't be said for their masters. While Saber and Lancer clash in battle, both Kiritsugu and Knet watch from far away, making sure they are a far distance from battle to prevent their own deaths. It's the same when Knet attacks Kiritsugu and hopes to separate him from his servant to weaken him and then later kill him. Both Knet and Kiritsugu know that you don't just need skill, but also trickery and deceit if you actually need to win the game. It's not morally good, but we're living in the present, not in Arthurian legends. As mentioned, these small conflicts and clash of ideologies is what makes the conflict of Fate Zero really interesting. Rather than just being a show about masters struggling to win the Holy Grail, this goes beyond its scope to develop its characters, craft out their backstories, and even give them credible motivations. This may be a change of pace and style for the original Fate series fans, but the show's philosophical and moral questions are a part of actually what makes it realistic. Even though episodes like episode 13 rely mostly on dialogue, these help to build out a greater aspect of each character or even give us a peek into their own mistakes and ideals. Fate Zero by Gen Urobuchi is surely a masterpiece when it comes to characters and philosophies. Just like his other masterpiece, Psycho Pass, Gen manages to question us on what's right and wrong and allows us to think twice on each other's philosophies. This is why Fate Zero is a great show not only for anime action fans, but for the intellectual minds as well. That's going to do it now for this video. Let me know whose ideology you agree with the most in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time on ViniiTube.